Tonton video ini sebelum menghina bangsa Indonesia daripada Syekh Imran Hosin. Dia menyatakan bahawa Indonesia ini merupakan petarung dan pejuang. Itu maksudnya apa? Aku tidak tahu guys. Anyway, kita intro dulu. Selamat kembali ke channel saya. Alhamdulillah, terima kasih klik video ni dan semoga kamu dipermurahkan rezekinya, sehat-sehat selalu dan paling penting bahagia dengan keluarganya. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Nah, daripada judul yang aku baca daripada video ni sebenarnya kan ini tentang sejarah Indonesia yang ramai tidak tahu dan saya sendiri pun tidak tahu guys. Apa kena mengena apa tu jangan menghina bangsa Indonesia sebelum kamu melihat video ini. Ada apa dengannya? Aku pun tidak tahu. Anyway guys, aku tidak mau buang waktu sebab aku mau tahu apa inti daripada video ni. Terima kasih klik video ni. Jangan lupa, let's go to the video. Kid TV.
Europe is empowered with a power which the rest of the world combined cannot match. If you think this happened by accident, you should go and buy a house in Disneyland.
Oh.
And Europe uses that power to attack the rest of the world and colonize it. If you think that happened by accident, go and live in Disneyland. When Europe colonized, it was something very sinister going on. It was made even more sinister because suddenly one day Europe started to withdraw. They call it decolonization. And as Europe decolonized, the natives now, they have something that they call, I don't know if you heard about it, independence. Huh? Independence. And they have a flag, and they have a national anthem, huh? And they have a hodgepodge of an army and so on. And then sometime in the middle of the night,
sejarah kemerdekaan
the lowering of the flag and the raising of the flag, and they'll be dancing and so on. And they say, we've got freedom. But the European will be hiding behind a mango tree and laughing his belly out.
Oh.
Look at these one-eyed fools. They think they have got freedom, that they drove Europe out. No, Europe withdrew for tactical and strategic reasons. But before Europe withdrew, decolonized, Europe planted some truly dangerous seeds. But the only way you could recognize those dangerous seeds is if you have nur from Allah.
Masya Allah.
Not just knowledge that you get from the books. That's important. Yes, that is important. But you need something more than that. The first seed that Europe planted, that it is in the essence of Islam, that you must recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Al-Malik, the one who possesses Al-Mulk, sovereignty. That's the translation for Mulk, sovereignty. But now Europe leaves behind a dangerous seed called the modern secular state. And the modern secular state declares, we no longer recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Al-Malik. The state is now Al-Malik, sovereign. And that is shirk. So this was the seed of shirk, political shirk, which was planted. How many Muslims saw it and recognized it? How many of our distinguished and learned ulama, for whom we have respect, we don't speak disrespectfully of them, not at all. How many of them recognized that this was shirk? We even had ulama in politics. Yeah, ulama in politics. We even had Islamic movements becoming a political party and fighting in elections like everybody else. Still going on now. But the second seed that Europe planted before withdrawing was the seed of transformation of money. Money was no longer going to be sunnah money, money which had intrinsic value, but rather we now have a new kind of money, this paper money, and it does not possess intrinsic value. The value of the money is outside of the money. And so now I'm paid my salary in paper. It could buy a camel. Took it home, gave it to my wife, put it away. 5 years later, take it out, can't buy a camel anymore, can only buy a donkey now. Did you
Semakin
hear
mahal
that?
ya. Semakin
My 1
murah.
month of sweat is now reduced. Only 2 weeks have been kept in the money. And 2 weeks of my sweat has disappeared. Is this permissible in Islam? Allah speaks in the Quran, the Prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam, and the market or the economy of the people of Shu'aib alayhi salam is a corrupted market. There's a lot of ripping off going on in this market.
Betul.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to it in the Quran, and He declares 3 times in the Quran. Listen to the words. وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. Do not do this. My 1 month is now reduced to 2 weeks. Do not diminish and make less the value
Banyak
of
nilai-nilai
people's
murni ya.
property, people's labor, etc. That is haram. And so this money, which is losing value, is by the definition of the Quran haram. But we were asleep. We were all asleep. And we didn't recognize that we were being taken for a ride. And then it would have become clear that my loss was somebody else's gain. Let me repeat that. When my money could no longer buy a camel, it could only buy a donkey. The value
Semakin
of my
turun
labor has
nilai
been
ya.
diminished by half. My loss was somebody else's gain. 5 years later, when I take it out, can't buy a donkey anymore. Can only buy a goat now. And so my 1 month has now been diminished to 1 week. If this keeps on going on, I'm going to be enslaved. A new slavery will come upon the world if this keeps on going on like this. Surely it was time for the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam to stop fighting amongst themselves over popcorn.
Masya Allah.
Because that's what they're doing. Fighting over popcorn. While this massive betrayal of Islam is taking place, and we are blissfully ignorant of it.
Allahu Akbar.
That's the price we pay when we only have scholarship but no nur. 5 years later, when you take out that money, can't buy a goat anymore. You only buy chicken and chips. That's where Indonesia is now. That is where Indonesia is now, chicken and chips. Yes. And still we're fighting over popcorn. If you're 17 years of age tonight, son and daughter, this lecture is for you. They've been fighting over popcorn. While the slavery has come upon us. The Indonesian rupiah is now trading at about 10 to 11,000 rupiah to $1. When the Indonesian rupiah collapsed 3 years ago, dramatically, there was nothing wrong with the Indonesian economy. The International Monetary Fund or the World Bank just 2 or 3 months earlier had given a clean bill of health to the Indonesian economy.
Wow.
Nothing significant had changed in that economy. When George Soros and company attacked, and the banking centers around Indonesia attacked, Singapore is one of them. The Indonesian rupiah collapsed overnight, and more than a half of the population of Indonesia were instantaneously reduced to poverty. There is such massive poverty in Indonesia today that the country is riddled with violence. And our sisters, or let's put it, my sister and my daughter and my mother must now sell her body for $1.
Allahu Akbar.
It's very cheap now. $1. Yeah, it's happening. While those fellas are fighting over popcorn. It's not by accident that Indonesia was attacked. Because the Indonesian is different. He's a warrior, he's a fighter. He'll give his life for Islam. The Indonesian.
Masya Allah. So guys, tadi di mana video yang menyatakan Indonesia ni merupakan petarung dan pejuang, dan sebenarnya aku pun tidak mau komen soal itu, dan semua kita harapkan semua umat Islam di dunia ni diberikan kesihatan dan juga kekuatan untuk menghadapi masa depan, apapun itu ujian untuk negara masing-masing ya guys. Terima kasih yang support video ni, semoga kita sehat-sehat selalu, dipermudahkan rezekinya, juga sentiasa dalam rahmat Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Terima kasih banyak-banyak, kita jumpa di next video macam biasa guys. Assalamualaikum, thank you and I love you. Bye bye.